First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.
Hi everyone and welcome to this webinar. My name is Karel van Heulen and today I'm joined here with my colleague Bruno van den Bossen.
Hey Karel.
Hi Bruno.
Glad to be here.
Today we're going to talk about the Plixus architecture as a whole and also more in detail about the diagnostics and upcoming new features that are coming into our diagnostics. Before that, let's go maybe through some introduction, and so as usual this webinar will take around 30 minutes. And if you answer 3 polls during this webinar, you make a chance to win an Amazon gift card. So please stay tuned. Now, if you cannot not follow the entire webinar, or if you want to share this webinar with another colleague, you can find the recording of this webinar on our website, televic.com/conference, under the tab support. Okay. Now, if during the webinar you feel or you think about an interesting project, you can scan this QR code and we will make sure that one of our sales team contacts you in the coming days. So don't hesitate to contact our team. All right, so let's start with this webinar. For those of you who have some experience with Televic, you might already know the power of our Plixus architecture. So the power of the Plixus architecture means that we have a very scalable system, a very scalable software hardware platform that can be used in large institutions, typically formal meetings like the UN, NATO, European Commission, but also in smaller meeting rooms, typically more the informal setup, where people want to have informal discussions, but also want to be connected with a UC platform for having hybrid meetings. And also there, Plixus is the right platform that can cater both large meetings as smaller ones. The Plixus architecture is built to create better understanding. It has a very reliable and performant architecture, making sure that in fact audio can be transported through our system in the most optimal way, making sure that you can hear and being heard in a very good way. But it's not only about audio. The Plixus architecture allows also to send video over the same network. So the same Plixus network, the same cable can transport not only audio, video, but also of course the power for the units and the data to control the discussion units. Now let's go a little bit more into detail about our Plixus architecture. So this is a typical setup where you see a mix of different types of discussion units, all connected to this central unit. And the central unit is what you see here in the middle. It's always available in a Plixus setup, and it makes sure that it's, let's say, that it's the brains of our Plixus setup, and it makes sure that audio and video is routed in the most optimal way. We have 2 versions, let's say the Plixus MME, which is an engine for video with video capabilities. So the moment you need to distribute video over our network, you will need the Plixus MME. For all the other setups, you have enough with a Plixus AER. Both central units have a Dante card capability with 64 inputs and 64 outputs. Okay, so what you see here on the Plixus setup in the green lines is our own Plixus network. It means it's our own proprietary network, a closed network, making sure that there is no issues about accountability. It's all Televic, and also everything has been controlled and making sure that everything is compatible. So this is our own network, and if you want to interact with our network, you need to go through the central unit. So that's the only interface to the outside world. The interface with the outside world, so the central unit, has a possibility to get audio out through auxiliary output or inputs and through Dante, as I explained. It has an SDI input to inject video sources from a camera tracking system. It has also an Ethernet port for a LAN connection with, for example, controlling the meeting, but also to use a third party over API. Now, let's discuss a little bit more into detail the benefits of this platform, of this Plixus architecture. First of all, as I explained in the beginning, it's built specially for any type of meeting. So if it's a small meeting or a large meeting, the same hardware software can be used. If you have, for example, a very large room, you can cascade multiple network extenders in a tree structure so that you can cater more than 4,000 units in one setup. So 4,000 units can be used with one central unit, so in a very scalable way. So it's the same as if you would design a small meeting room. Secondly, we have the mix and match capability, making sure that we can connect different types of units all on the same network, and you don't have to combine two different networks together. Of course, the most obvious one is mixing wired and wireless units in one setup, and you can really make one, let's say, one conference system with wired and wireless units, but you can also mix audio-only units with multimedia units, or flush mount units and tabletop units. Also, the interpreter desk is put on the same network, and we have also other items like the Plixus nameplate, the interface boxes, or the video encoders and decoders. So all units, they have two Plixus ports, and they can be daisy chained on the same network. Right. Next to that, we use standard cabling. So we don't need specific cables to do our network. You can use just shielded Cat5e cables, and everything will work. So also the video, audio, and power all running over this standard Ethernet cable. So every unit, as I said, has two Plixus ports. There is no dedicated input or output, so you don't lose time with looking which is now the input or output. You just connect all units and daisy chain, and the last unit can go back to the central unit to make a kind of loop, so that you have that you're sure that if a cable comes loose or a unit is broken, all the rest will still work. Next to that, Plixus has been built over several years, making sure that reliability is really top-notch. Also, in the architecture, we made sure that the most mission-critical items are in the central unit. So we don't depend on an external PC or Windows server, making sure that there are no unforeseen updates or errors that could come from an external system. No, everything is on the central engine. Also, no installation needed, you just can work with the engine. Audio and video, as explained already, our network is capable of not only sending audio to the different units, but also of distributing up to 6 Full HD video streams. So you can inject video through the SDI input of the central unit, but it's also possible to send HDMI input through a video input box that can be just put anywhere on the Plixus network like any other discussion unit. So for example, here on top you see that we have some content from a laptop, can be injected in a video input box that is part of the same Plixus network, so in and out here. And when some content is sent to this video input box, it's sent to the central unit, and from the central unit it is distributed to all video enabled units on the network. And so you can have up to 6 video streams at the same time on our Plixus network. And at the same way, you can also extract one of the 6 video streams through a video output box. For example, here you have a video output box and you have a small button connected to the video output box. So you can select any of the 6 video streams by just pressing the button. Video streams are sent over our network with a latency less than 1 frame. So if you have interpreters in your room, they will see the active speaking person almost lip-synced with the audio. Redundancy, also very important of course, goes together with the reliability. So as I explained, we can create loops, making sure that everything will still work even if a cable is coming loose. And additionally, we also give the possibility to hot swap a discussion unit. So suppose a unit would be broken, you can just replace the broken unit with a new one. You can fill out the serial number on the web page of the central unit, and this new unit will just behave as its previous unit. So you can hot swap during a meeting without interrupting the meeting. Another advantage is of course our extensive audio routing capabilities. So we take the most out of our Dante capabilities. So we have out of the box 64 input and outputs, and we can really mix and match, let's say, making groups of microphones, making groups of Dante and microphones or auxiliary inputs, and route this to any output like Dante output, speakers, and so on. So we do have on the central engine also an audio configurator where you can create the input groups, output groups, and you can route this through this matrix. Next to the audio routing, of course, we also have the same for video routing. So as explained already, we have the video capability. We also have a video routing software on the engine to allow the video routing from input to output. And last but not least, we also have a very extensive API, making sure that if you would like to use your own application or if you want to make something very customized for your customer, then you can make this through our API. So we have 2 APIs, one for Confero that can be accessed directly to our central unit, or you could use the Cocon API, which goes through the Cocon room server. The API can be a secure API, so making sure that your application is optimally secured. All right, so these are the 8 benefits that I would like to highlight for Plixus. Now, if you think about a specific project, as I already explained, please make sure to contact us through this form. You can just scan this QR code and fill out your data. Okay, and that brings us to our first poll. And the question is just for you. If you have seen those advantages of the Plixus architecture, which is for you the biggest advantage? Is it about the scalability from small meeting rooms to large meeting rooms, so having the same way of working? Is it the capability of mix and match different types of units like wired and wireless? Is it about the fact that you can use standard Ethernet cables? Is it about the reliability and having just a central unit instead of a server there? Is it the video capabilities and having 6 Full HD low latency video streams available? Is it about the loops and the redundancy capabilities? Is it the audio routing capabilities? Or are you looking mostly at the extensive API capabilities? I give you the possibility to vote on these units. Please do not type this in the chat, but do this in the poll.
Okay, thank you, Karel, for this introduction. And while you were voting on the poll, we swapped places. So the main topic of this webinar is the diagnostics and what we can do with it. Now, to talk about the diagnostics, of course, we want to make sure that we identify the challenges that they can be used for. So what are some of the common challenges or issues that we see in the field and that we get as feedback from our installers and integrators? First of all, is everything installed according to plan? Everybody makes a design, everybody makes a plan, somebody installs it, not necessarily yourself, and we want to make sure that everything is installed according to the original design. A second item linked to this installation is the power consumption. As you know, a lot of the devices on the Plixus network actually are fed through power over Ethernet. So we must make sure that we stay within the limits of the cabling that's in place. And of course, everything that we don't want to happen, but occasionally, sometimes a component does fail. This could be a device that's failing, or this could be part of the cabling where a connector is disconnected, a cable has been damaged, impacting the setup of the system. Now, that's part of the physical components, but also some factors are just external. Wireless interference. If you are, for example, a rental company, you're setting up a system in a hotel, a random place, a convention center, how many wireless networks are there in the same area, and what is the impact on the system? And if you are talking about wireless systems, just the battery status of every individual device. Now, these are some of the issues that we have identified, that we are working on, but of course, maybe you have some other ones. Or what are the most important or the most common problems that you do encounter in the field when installing or setting up a conference system. We've listed some options: bad cabling, broken connectors, the wireless interference, incorrect installation, failing batteries, or there might be some other topics that you can put in the chat. Please fill in the poll, but feel free to add some other suggestions in the chat as well. Okay, good. Thank you for answering the poll, and we're back with the rest of the slides, of course. When we're talking about the diagnostics, we'll take one room as a reference or one design as a reference. We mentioned we want to make sure that everything has been installed according to plan. So we start our setup of a smaller meeting room with one multimedia engine included in the system. Connected to that, we add a next device, and connected to that, we add a number of Unicast devices in a loop for redundancy. We also add some wireless units for flexibility, so we have a wireless access point coupled with the multimedia engine and a number of wireless devices as well. Of course, we have a multimedia system, so we do want to inject and view some of the content. So we add a VN box for a laptop input for a PC, that could be a Teams device or a Zoom Room PC, for example, and a number of VR boxes to display the content on the screen. Now, if we take on this setup, we want to make sure that we validate how it actually works. And for this part, we will switch to a live environment where we can show this in the field. So we see our Confero web interface, and we can log in as a technician on the system. We log in, we see the dashboard, and one of the components on the left, which was already there, is our Diagnostics web interface. Now, this was already available in the platform, and it gives you an overview of all the devices that are connected into the platform, including for the wireless devices that are connected, also the battery status and some indication on the signal quality that's available. If we click on one of the devices, we even see a little bit more information with software versions that have been installed, so that we can do that checkup if everything was installed correctly. You can see it does indicate which devices are grouped on the same branch or on a loop, but it remains a list. Now, what is new, what have we added to the platform, is hidden in the top right corner with this advanced button. If we click this, we see a little bit more, we see a number of extra tabs that are visualized, and the one that I want to start with is the network map. So we open the network map, and at that point we see a network layout, and we see how the system auto-detects how all devices are connected, which device is connected to which neighbor. We can switch between different layouts to optimize the view, but for example, we can see the 6 Unicast devices that we had, and there's a connection back to the Plixus Next to indicate the loop. We see also the wireless devices, the Plixus VIN and VR boxes that are connected here as well. So this is already a first great step. We can validate the design that we had made with all the devices matches with what we have installed in the field. The next item is all these devices are configured to use power over Ethernet. Are we staying within the limits of the Plixus system? That we can validate on the Power tab, where we can see that all the devices that enable or that are capable of measuring the power, we see and those are the Plixus Next devices. we see that for every port, the power consumption that is being used, as well as the current that is being drawn over that port. So the current limit for one port is 2 amps or 100 watts on as a power consumption per branch or per port. So we see that we are still safely within the limits that are being designed. So far, so good. But sometimes things go wrong. For example, there could be a cable break somewhere in the network. If we want to validate or investigate this, we can again resort to the diagnostics and we go to the network map. So I'll leave it in this organic view as this makes it more visible. But in this case, the network is shown, and at this point we disconnect one of the cables in the network. So what happens now is that the system will continuously update the graph, and we see at some point there that the loop that we had with the Unicos devices has changed into a branch. We can visualize this in both layouts, where we see that the dark line connecting back to the next has disappeared in the system. This is not only visible on the network map, or this visible on the network map obviously, but we can also see the consequences on the power consumption. Before, maybe you have noticed, the power was supplied by the two sides of the loop. So the 3 devices on the left were powered by one port, 3 devices on the right by the other port, and now we can see that all devices are powered by this one port, but still within the limits of the 2 amps or the 100 watts per port. So we're still okay there. I'll switch back to the network map, and if we now reconnect the devices, and somebody's now plugging in back the devices. So at this point we see that after a few seconds the network restores itself, and again the branch becomes a loop again, restoring the network in full functionality, including the redundancy that is part of this setup. So this already gives us a very quick way to identify the problem, to visualize where the problem is. Now, of course, if you have a smaller room, it's quite easy to understand where the problem is situated. If you have a really big room or a big venue, the network map is also interactive. So we can click one or three of or a number of the nodes, and this actually turns on the LED in the microphone stem or the microphone button. This means that you can very easily look into the room and see which devices that you have selected, walk immediately to those devices, find the cable that has been broken and replace it, or replace the unit itself if some issue has occurred. So this allows you to very quickly have an intervention, make a change to the system and update accordingly. If you want to do a really big deep dive into what's happening, the system actually logs the individual errors or the individual connection issues on the device. So I'll show in this case all the devices that do show some errors. So we put in some that to be able to show this. But it is important to know that the Plixus network works similar to a standard IP network in that regard. There are different packets that are being transmitted, and there can always be an issue. So for those of you familiar with IT networks, there is always some level of packet loss in the network or some retransmissions, and that's what we see here as well. So the fact that there is a small number of packet errors, so packet errors means an error in the data packet itself, or link error means that there's a physical connection problem between the devices, and the plugging and unplugging of the devices can definitely trigger this. So the fact that there is a small number of errors is not a problem at all. If this number keeps increasing over time, then that becomes problematic. And to be able to track or visualize this, you can select a number of units, and then on the tracked devices we can actually capture the performance of the system in detail, and we can see how many errors that there are over time. We are not visualizing any at this point, but over time the graph will be updated and you can see the history or the evolution of the different errors in the system. So these features offer you, with the network map and the power consumption, offers you an immediate overview of what's happening in the network. If you need to have a deep dive on what's going on specifically, the port errors and tracking of the devices enable you to dig a lot deeper as well. Of course, we've solved our cable break. But in our system, we also have a wireless units. So we did not include only diagnostics purely for the wired system, but we offer the same functionality also for the wireless system. So this time we don't log in the web interface of the central unit, but in the web interface of the wireless access point. So again, we log in through the technician view and we look at the diagnostics dashboard. This is the same as on the MME, obviously. But in this case, if we click on the advanced button, we do not see the network layout because in a wireless system, everything is connected directly to the wireless access points. But we can analyze what is happening in the area. So if we click on start capturing, we actually see how the wireless spectrum is being used. So to give some more background information on this, every wireless access point actually has 3 antennas built in. 2 of those are used for connecting to the wireless devices, the Flex units, the Flex or Flex Go units. And 1 antenna is used to continuously scan the wireless spectrum and to see which wireless networks are active or which bands are available for use by the wireless Plixus system. We can see at this point that this particular band is used because there's very low interference. As in most environments, the 2.4 GHz band on the left-hand side, the interference is quite high. On the 5 GHz band, there's a little bit more space and we are actually in quite a good environment. The red line indicates which band is currently chosen by the system, and if there would be some kind of interference, the system will automatically hop from one band to the other. This built-in spectrum analyzer actually allows you to very quickly assess how many wireless networks that are available. So if, for example, in a rental context, you're setting up in a hotel, you will immediately see what bands that are available, if you should expect problems or not in the environment. Now, this also gives you the opportunity, or the system also gives you the opportunity to look much more in depth into the system by analyzing which packets are getting lost. I won't go into too much detail, but be aware that on a wireless spectrum or in a wireless system, there will always be some level of packet loss, which is indicated by the blue bars. There is always packet loss because it's a shared medium, so multiple devices can start broadcasting at the same time. But as long as every device remains below the orange bar or below the red bar, you should not expect any problem. This is mainly a more advanced visualization of the signal quality indication with the smileys that are available on the Flex units, which are indicated with the green, red, or yellow smileys. So we have not only shown the wireless and wired diagnostics, and it's important to know, I did not mention that explicitly, that this diagnostics functionality is available on both Confero as well as on the Cocon CRP. So it will become available for Confero as of version 7.16 and for Cocon 6.10.2. Both are scheduled to be released by the end of summer 25. To recap, key features of the platform are the network layout that is generated automatically, the power consumption that you can very easily monitor, the error monitoring of the individual ports, and the wireless spectrum analysis. Now, we are curious, of course, to know which of those features are actually the most relevant or bring the most value to you. Is that focus on the network layout, the power consumption, the individual error monitoring, or the spectrum analysis? I'll give you some time to fill in the poll. So thank you for filling in the poll, and this brings us to the end of this webinar. If you want to get some more information or have somebody contact you, please fill in the form. You can scan the QR code on the screen, you'll be redirected to the form, fill it in, and we'll make sure to contact you in one of the following days. Of course, this is not our only webinar. There are new ones coming up, and the first one is planned end of summer, August 28th. And we will focus on Confero interpretation, to give you an update on all the changes that we're doing to make multilingual meetings easy for you. Scan the QR code and you can register immediately. Except for the webinars, you can see and come visit us at a number of events, including Infocom Asia, Integrate in Sydney, Infocom India in Mumbai, and Jitex in Dubai in the fall. If you want to watch back to the recording of this webinar or one of the previous webinars, they are all available on our website, so please visit our website and you can see all the webinars from the past. Then the only thing that remains for me is to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you back again very soon on one of the events or in the next webinar. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
First, every voice matters. Secondly, it's also about enhancing decision making. Thirdly, language accessibility. And finally, it's also about customer-centric approach.